Welcome back to the strategic management class. We are understanding about various strategic management tools. Yesterday we were exclusively discussing about the strategic implementation, and before that we were discussing about mergers and acquisitions and their importance as far as business empires are concerned, in order to share the unexpected things, results, what is required. The mergers and acquisitions are essentially required for any kind of business. And today we are going to discuss the one more topic under what to call the strategic management is concerned, which is nothing but the strategic controls. So what is a strategic control? So as we all know very well that strategy is nothing but the long-term plans, goals, missions, objectives. So when a company plans, lays strategy, whether that is in an appropriate direction or not, whether the laid strategy is moving in a right direction or not, can we going to achieve whatever things set before itself by the company? If not happening the expected things, to make into have the good control to get the derailed strategy movement into what to call the onto the perfect track is nothing but the controlling. So not only that, if at all any necessary actions are required, if at all any necessary changes are required, you are going to implement controllers. Again, you need to come back onto the appropriate track. So what you call, these are all strategic controls. So let us see here in the strategic controls. So after designing a strategy for any business, need to track whether desired results occurred as expected. So one cannot forget, we cannot close eyes after designing the strategy. Everything will go on an appropriate manner. Nobody knows that, because future is completely uncertain. So strategic controls are essential. The strategic control helps to do this by analyzing company and its ability to maximize its strengths and opportunities. The strategic controls, what they do, they understand the health of the company, whether the company is doing good business, earning right profits, or satisfying the customers appropriately. So these things will be very well tracked down by using all these strategical controls. So let us see what are these strategical controls. There are 4 types of strategical controls. One is premise control. The next one is implementation control, special alert control, and strategic surveillance. Every one is very important. So as far as its effectiveness towards the strategic control is concerned. So premise control means before planning the strategy, few kinds of assumptions generally in any business will be made. So by the time next upcoming financial years, by 2 financial years, our company should start a production unit in any particular country, or else the company should occupy this XYZ market. So what you call, these are all promises, future about the company. So through the strategic control, whether the set premises are actually going to be achieved or not can be understand before itself. So let us see here what is a premise control. So premise means assumption on which strategy is developed. It's a kind of hypothesis, statement about the future of the company. A business strategy is based on an assumed premise of how things will occur in the future. So generally for any business, what is required? Development in the business is required. Satisfaction of the customers are required. Premise controls allows to examine whether this assumption still holds true once actually put ideas into action. Because on paper planning is different, practically situations are going to change. Immediately government will change, immediately environment will impact. The best example is unexpected epidemic situation. Since 2 years, you know very well entire world suffering from COVID. So because of these things, what happens? Sometimes the set premises may not be finally fulfilling their objective. So changes will be required. That can be done. Premises may be affected by environmental factors. That's what we discussed, such as inflation, interest rates, social changes, or by industry factors such as competitors, suppliers, and barriers to entry. These controls will help to recognize changes in the premise so one can adapt strategy accordingly. So under strategy control, premise control means is nothing but whether the assumptions laid, the assumptions whichever framed are really going to be in appropriate direction or not before itself can be decided. If not, appropriate changes will be made. What do you call this? This you are calling as a premise control. The next one is strategy implementation control. So practically, if at all any difficulties arises, through this controller one can do this. So here actually two types of controllers are there. One is monitoring strategic threats and doing milestone reviews. So monitoring strategic threats means the tactics which are going to be used, the short-term actions which need to be implemented can be understand. Doing milestone reviews means which actually helps to the company for the full-scale assessment of the business at designated points in the strategy. So what do you call this? Strategy implementation control. The second control, the special alert control. So these controllers actually useful whenever sudden events happen, such as natural disasters, like famines will take place, earthquakes will take place, complete, unexpected changes would be there in the business worlds. So special alert control is a mechanism to assess the position of one's business in the case of sudden events such as natural disasters, product recalls, or market spikes. Upheavals. Market spikes means upheavals. Special alert controls allows to reconsider the relevancy of the strategy in light of new events. So suddenly if unexpected things happens, whether the laid strategy is an appropriate way doing its essential things or not. If not, what are the changes are required can be decided. Prepare how one can handle these special alerts with procedures to be followed, priorities to keep, and tools to be used. So generally special alert control means these controllers are going to be useful whenever unexpected events happens in the business world. The next one is the strategic surveillance control. Surveillance means constant observation. So throughout the period of the business, these controllers will be observing the movement of the or else the changes of the businesses, accordingly the impact towards the what we call the laid strategies. So any business owner need to protect business from external threats that may hinder the success of strategy. Strategic surveillance control allows to monitor multiple sources of these threats, continually safeguarding strategy by following trade journals, attending conferences, and keeping awareness of industry trends to meet these risk as they arise. So to have the strategic surveillance 24 by 7 in work, what is required? One need to attend the conferences regarding the businesses, reading the journals. You need to gain the latest knowledge about the current world. Understand? So this is called the very, very important part of the fifth unit, what we call the strategy implementation. Now we are going to start the one more aspect, completely a different information, which is very, very useful to all of you, which is nothing but the corporate governance. Understand? Now we discuss actually what do you mean by corporate governance. It's a sub-part of your fifth unit, very, very important part as far as exam is concerned and the business knowledge is concerned. What do you mean corporate governance? As you all know that generally the business forms are concerned, most of the times the very, very important forms are three. One is sole proprietorship kind of businesses, partnership kind of businesses, company kind of businesses. Under sole proprietorship, only one owner will be there. He is going to enjoy the benefits, and as well as he is the responsible for the losses also. So I mean to say, under sole proprietorship, the unlimited liability will be there. Same way in the partnership also, one experiences what to call the unlimited liability. If this unlimited liability has been minimized among the so many people and doing a business is nothing but the company kind of businesses, where you find the promoters come forward to have what you called the support from the public in terms of the shares. So shares means what? Having what you call the partnership with the company. Minimum to minimum with a 10 rupees value. So because of this, what will be there? The liability is going to be shared amongst every stakeholder of the company, isn't it? So what do you call such a kind of governing? All these things like stakeholders would be there, promoters would be there, understand? As well as the direct investors would be there. You call that one as a corporate governance. Corporate means in a bigger scale, in a bigger way. So where you find the involvement of so many people, directly or indirectly, isn't it? So generally, the corporate governance means the group of people will be managing all the transactions, all the business decisions, whom you call as the board of directors. CEOs would be there, managing directors would be there, understand? So what do you mean corporate governance? So technically, you see this definition. Corporate governance is the application of best management practices, compliance of law in true letter and spirit, and adherence to ethical standards for effective management and distribution of wealth and discharge of social responsibility for sustainable development of all stakeholders. This is the actual definition of the corporate governance. Conduct of business in accordance with shareholders' desires, while conforming to the basic rules of the society embodied in the law and local customs, which is called as the corporate governance. So under corporate governance, actually you find the relationships among so many parties. So relationships among various participants in the determine the direction and performance of a corporation. Effective management of relationships among shareholders would be there, managers would be there, board of directors would be there, employees would be there, customers would be there. creditors, suppliers, community, means society. So all of them are going to be considered as the stakeholders. The business, whatever this corporate world does, will have its impact in all these parties. If a chemical factory is there, without considering its environmental hazard or situation, if constant releases pollutants, what will be there? Environment pollution will take place. Society is going to impact. So what is the matter here? The ethical matter comes into the play, is it? The board of directors should have transparency as far as the decision making is concerned. Otherwise, what happens? The shareholders are going to lose their trust on the company's board. So that leads to the unexpected problems. So these are some of the regular activities you find when you are going to observe the corporate world. What is the purpose of the corporate governance? Just now I told you, so under sole proprietorship, partnership kind of businesses, raising funds is going to be somewhat difficult, and as well as it's not the wise way of doing big scale businesses, because few parties are going to be liable, isn't it, for any kind of negative situations. Then the corporate governance, what happens? They offer shares to the general public. Through the public shares, they are going to raise the funds. The all what you call the unexpected liability will be mitigated. So better access to the external finance. The lower cost of capital, interest rates on loans. Just for a 10 rupees face value, the shares will be offered. And also interest rates are also need not to be fixed based upon the business they are going to give that one. Improved company performance and sustainability. This is one more reason why the corporate governances are required. Higher firm valuation and share performance. Reduced risk of corporate crisis and scandals. So these are the few of the benefits through the corporate governance the big companies are going to earn. Hence, after 1990s, you find in India much more development as far as the corporate world is concerned. So many foreign companies, stepped into the India. After 1990s, what will happen? So many unexpected situations one can see as far as Indian markets are concerned. Entire corporate governance depends on these four what you call pillars. If these pillars are unstable, weak, the governance means that business world is going to collapse. Hence, these are all called pillars. What are those? The first one is the accountability. The second one is the fairness. The third one is the transparency. And the fourth one is the independence. So these are all called pillars of the corporate governance. Very, very important discussion. Accountability, fairness, transparency, and independence. What do you mean accountability? Ensure that management is accountable to the board. Ensure that the board is accountable to the shareholders. Whatever decisions the management and board combinedly takes, the results whatever they are going to yield should be accountable by them only. Otherwise, what happens? The shareholders are going to lose what we call trust on the board. Fairness. Protect shareholders' rights, treat all shareholders, including minorities, equitably, provide effective redress for violations. So shareholders are nothing but the true stakeholders as far as the growth of the company is concerned. The high-end shareholders are there giving privileges, The shareholders with meager share, not giving privileges as per expectation, so which really sends a negative signals in the market. So equitable way we need to treat as far as the shareholders are concerned. So what do you call this? Fairness. Next, the transparency. So transparency means ensure timely, accurate disclosure on all material matters, including the financial situation, performance, ownership, and corporate governance. You will be observing so many financial statements. So after completion of the financial year, generally after March 31st, all the facts, figures, whatever is appearing should be transparent, should be cleared, should be explanatory, self-explanatory. So by that, what will be there? The shareholders will have the confidence as far as investing of their amounts are concerned. Independence. The procedures and structures are in place so as to minimize or avoid completely conflicts of interest. The board of directors should not depend on anybody, so while taking the decisions in the interest of what you call the stakeholders, whether internal influence or external influence. If the influence working there means the decision making transparency will not be there. So what do you call this? This is called as the fourth pillar, independence. So while corporate governance doing its businesses, taking care of these pillars are very very important. So what are these pillars? The first one is accountability, the next one is a fairness, the third one is transparency, and the fourth one is the independence. So what is corporate governance? So corporate governance means is nothing but generally you find the involvement of so many parties. Board of directors would be there, management would be there, shareholders will be there, stakeholders will come into the picture. Who are the stakeholders? Suppliers, employees, government, society, all these are all nothing but what the stakeholders. Everybody will have interest about the performance of the business, its impacts on them. So what do you call this? This you are calling as a corporate governance. So what is the importance? So there are so many factors are there. So better access to external finance, lower cost of the capital, improved company performance, sustainability, higher firm valuation and share performance, reduce risk of the corporate crisis and scandals. So here I am going to stop. So today what we have discussed, so we discussed about the strategic controls. So four types. One is premise control and one more is implementation control, special alert control, strategic surveillance. And today I started the last wonderful topic as far your syllabus is concerned, what you call corporate governance. So conduct of business in accordance with the shareholders' desires while confirming the basic rules of the society embodied in the law and local customs. And we came to know why corporate governance required benefits, and also we discussed about pillars. What are the pillars? Accountability, fairness, transparency, and finally independence. stop here. Thank you so much.